Hi, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a really long time about Pluto in Scorpio. I feel like this is I was going to say misunderstood, but actually I want to say it's almost not understood, because it's such a place of symbolizing hiddenness. I mean, Pluto itself being lord of the underworld, or let's say a planet that evokes a kind of mystery that makes people ask, what is it? Is it is it there? Is it not there? Does it exist? We just discovered Pluto not so long ago, and it's, is it a planet? Is it not a planet? What is it? And that's very much a good metaphor for sort of thinking about the Pluto in Scorpio generation, which is what I'm trying to talk about. I am in this generation. I'm born 1990, and this would be the period between 1986, sorry, to 1994, 1995, but really very intense during 1990 to 1993. Lots of things happened. We were born in a time when structures and institutions and things that had people's collective faith in them, and therefore a kind of collective action or mind control, a programming, all that was breaking away in sort of late 80s. If you think about what was happening in the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, in that area of the world, it wasn't just one country. They've now splintered into, and China was under martial law. I was quite close to that, being from China myself, so that kind of things. And it wasn't just one place, it was all over the world. I could list continuously. But it just meant that this is a generation of kids, when they were kids, that were very easily on having had to learn how to hide. And I mean that in multiple layers of ways. Sometimes it meant physically hiding. For many of them, this also goes with the family dynamic. The breaking down of the family at that point was pretty significant to have results. It was obvious at that point. If in the 70s and 80s it was, yeah, people were getting divorced, but you were not yet seeing the things up front that much. But it was a group of kids that knew how to hide who they are, truly who they are, because it wasn't safe. Because it wasn't, you just didn't know which crowd was the wrong one. And this is also another point. It's almost like, to talk about this position, and I have it in the 12th house, so it's sort of intensely hidden. It's sort of, it's like people in this position like me, we live like hermits. I live in the country. I talked more to my cats and raccoons that come to my door to beg for food. Actually, they're there. But I have no more food to give. I gave all the bread and pecans and nuts, and so I have no more food. But I talk to them more than I talk to people in a day. So this is a kind of... But this also goes with the Pluto in Scorpio thing. I mean, for years, right? the millennials were getting bad reps in the newspapers. They're lazy. They're unable to work in a community setting. And then all of a sudden now, with the COVID stuff, with us realizing that most jobs are actually, you know, and now they don't even pay people enough. So is it that millennials are lazy, or are they just realizing, 60 to 65% of global millennials do not want a 9 to 5 job? Well, see, in any other setting, when you have more than 50% of people agreeing on something, they would say, it's democracy. We're a very democratic process. See, 60%. Actually, I don't really want to open up on the economy thing because this is not a video about economy. Although, of course, everything is related. But this is more a way to talk about the hiddenness of this position, this natal position, Pluto in Scorpio, for the people who have it and for the people who live with these people, or who, well, I guess it's everybody else. Because actually this is quite a rare position. Pluto takes 271, 273 years to go around one cycle. And so to have him come home, to have her come home, to have Pluto come home is, last time was 200 something years ago. And so in this society, in this world, in this kind of culture where we like to pretend we don't even remember what was happening 2 weeks ago, it's a very anti-continuity culture we have. But that's where actually the Pluto in Scorpio hiddenness is. In a way, it's not hidden. I mean, it's like nature or trees or rivers or raccoons. They're not hidden. They don't make neon signs to say, hi, I'm here, I'm a business, come in. No, but they're there. They live their life and are quite in tune with everybody else, and they do a lot more than people realize. I mean, I always hated this saying since I was young about if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did it really fall? Like, obviously, you just said that if a tree fell in the forest, how could you then come back to say that then how did it not happen? Ask yourself, But obviously it did happen. So it's a lot about, but this position is really like this. If you have this, even if you don't have it in the 12th house, like me, but I would say there's no good or bad positions, but having it in my 12th house really took me a long time to even realize that this is part of me. Like, it was hidden. Pluto is a hidden thing. Pluto is a mystery. Scorpio is a mystery. 8th house, Scorpio, that's a mystery. 12th house is a mystery. So I was a mystery to myself for a really long time. But, see, it's not a problem to be a mystery. I mean, the stars and nature and why the raccoons are like that and why our cats behave the way they do, those are mysteries to us. And we enjoy endlessly talking about them, not finding out why. It's the point of a mystery. Actually, there's a really great Futurama episode on that. I can't remember which season, but when Professor Farnsworth discovers the theory to everything, the thing that physicists have been working on for years. And then he gets depressed, right? He's like, there's nothing to do. There's nothing else left to do. And then it ends well because he realized that he actually had more questions. The search, the search for knowledge is endless and relentless. I can't remember if that's actually in the episode, but that's what I said then. It's relentless, and that's why it's fun. Like if there's no mystery, ugh, think about it. If you know everything about everything, which I know is sort of but that's a very left brain way of thinking about things. Excuse me. A lot of things are mystery, and they remain a mystery. And how do I say this? They are not in any hurry to lift the veil. Your cats don't really give a shit that you understand. Unless you really want to and you're really special and you try, But sorry, mosquitoes. But mostly, actually, yeah, this is why, honestly, this is why I wanted to make this video. I really think joy comes from mystery. I didn't hear anybody say this in this way. Well, yeah, there were some people. Will Harrison is a fantastic YouTube astrologer. He's also Pluto in Scorpio. Actually, there's loads of Pluto in Scorpio astrologers. This is a whole generation of natural-born shamans, or healers, into that kind of spiritual things, naturally so. It's not like you have to initiate yourself. Well, you do have to initiate yourself, but even if you don't, whatever you do has a shamanic touch. But that's just it. I mean, shamanic touch and those traditions, oral traditions, everybody has oral traditions. Chinese have their oral tradition. I live in Canada. The Native Americans have their oral tradition. Wherever you go, there's their own oral tradition. The Bible is a book of oral traditions, actually. I took classes in university. It's not just me talking out of my ass. But it's... Socrates said, I know that I don't know. Why do I have to? Not that I should not know or continue to search, but why should it be exhausted? Why should that mystery yield to you? It gave birth to you, or to me, not you to it. You cannot control it. Actually, I would say this is where a lot of the misunderstanding about this generation comes from. This generation embodies a kind of primal, primitive, raw power that is very... One of my cat just came in. That is very cat-like, very animal-like, very animalistic. So annoying. And insofar as it is animalistic, it is something like an elemental force. And as such, it is not to be controlled by any humans, any institutions, any will to power, anything like that. Therefore, any attempt to control it Actually, I learned this from Alan Watts. If you guys don't know Alan Watts, Alan Watts. He was a philosopher, active in the 60s and stuff. Go find his videos on YouTube. He was talking about how nature can become demonic or women can become demonic, but only if you try to control and dominate it. Otherwise, they do not. It's the same thing here. You cannot try to control an elemental force like fire, water. You have to, what's the word? Be careful with it. You know, people might say, oh, that is part of control. No. Try to see the subtle sensitivity I'm trying to get at. This is a generation with a lot of gifts and a lot of trauma. It's kind of related, but this is a generation that is somewhat born in prison. And because of the Pluto influence, many of us had very traumatic birth experience. I had a cesarean section. That's how I came. After my mom tried to give birth naturally for about like a whole day, 24 hours, or at least 19 hours. It was just excruciating. It wasn't going to happen. It looked like a murder scene. And because I had something around my neck and I couldn't come out and I was suffocated. And I came into this world like dead, right? Because I was suffocated. I was not breathing. So I remember for a few seconds that I was out of my body and then I went in. So I came into this world having an out-of-body experience, which I did not realize until very recently because, well, it's obvious to anyone who studies spiritual practice that once you've done that once, you can do it again. It's, it's just a door. And I did not really realize that people don't just naturally always astral project or, travel. Like the ego can go in and out. And those are the kind of things that many of this generation has or has experienced. To what extent we have knowledge or are in touch with this kind of stuff depends on your spiritual path and your spiritual practice, but it is something that comes naturally to us because I think we are actually here to play a healer role as a generation. I mean, it's gonna manifest in your family, your own situation, your path, but it is something that is happening collectively too. So, if you are watching this because you love someone who has this position or because you hate someone who has this position, just try to understand that they are linked to the primal, and it's not their fault. They don't have a choice. They would love to be love and light all the time, but they can't. Scorpio, the way Scorpio thinks is at the very end. I would say, I think about this often, that the Scorpio black and white thing means that duality has developed to a very full maturity, because after that you go into Sagittarius. In Sagittarius, duality is not really existent anymore. That's why the arrow. Because, how do I say this? Because once duality is understood, it is no longer necessary to adhere to it. Duality is a part of nature, but it's not. It's not the whole thing. Think about it. The universe is called universe. That's one song in Latin. So annoying. So there's no duality. There is no black or white. There's no man or woman. There's just a mosquito on my face. And it's all because you stretch a pole and then you have to have two ends. It's a physical thing. No? N'est-ce pas? As the French say. Anyway, I just feel like this is a position that, and this is a generation, because people talk about millennials, millennial this, millennial that, mostly in a very negative way, I would say. We get a very bad reputation because we were like the sort of, we don't like crowds. We like to hang out with our three friends, and we don't like to say, what's up? We don't care. Like, the sky is up, the sun is up. I don't, my boyfriend is up. No, it's a joke. But we want to talk about, we are not very useful to the status quo, is what I'm trying to say. 60% of millennials around the world, they've found out, can't or do not want to work a 9-to-5 job. Like, they'll end up setting themselves on fire or setting the office on fire or something. Not that they're violent people, but they feel passionately. And so yeah, I feel like if you're watching this and you have this position, know that you are capable of as much joy, if not more, because jokes, funniness comes from pain, horrible pain, and humanness. Jokes, really good jokes, remind us of our humanity. For example, I really like this joke. A guy, mosquitoes. Sorry, there's a price to pay living in the countryside, but it's okay. The joke. A guy asked another guy, "Why do you speak Russian fluently, being a non-Russian?" The joke could be told many different ways. And the guy says, 2 ex-wives. I know it's my sense of humor is maybe a bit dry, but I feel like if you do have this position, you probably would be rolling on the floor right now, because it's funny. It's hilarious. It's so funny, I can't even laugh. It's so funny. And a lot of times, this generation comes into this world with the understanding of death. Scorpios relate a lot with this curiosity, this fascination, this, I would say, love of death. And this is badly understood, really badly understood, because people would say, oh, this is, therefore you're necrophilus or necrophilic, or, you want to live like zombies or whatever. No. Scorpios have a respect for death, understanding that it's the other side of life or birth. Like, if you had a birth, obviously you have to have a death. Like, otherwise that would be really creepy. An undead thing is the most creepy thing. Like those, someone did a documentary or whatever on like how McDonald's burgers, like many years after, looks exactly the same. Like, that's fucking creepy. But death is not creepy. Death is part of life. So if you have this position, know that you are here to live life, not just experience death, which I know you've experienced many times. Many times, like daily. Like me. But it's a breath. That's what Scorpios understand at one point, especially this generation, Pluto in Scorpio. It's breath. Birth. Death. That's it. So nothing scary or horrible or necrophilic. You know, necrophilus, I would even say, comes from a kind of misunderstanding about death and thinking that it's a horrible decay or something. No. Decay is part of life. In death, there's no decay. Actually, in death, there's a rebirth. It's a cycle. So there's a lot of joy in this position. And I think a lot of us, because we've lived so long as hermits and often we had really terrible childhood trauma, we don't really talk to other people. I talk more to people now, but it still feels like hermits united, you know? It's like a Monty Python joke. Like Life of Brian. The great thing about being a hermit is at least you meet people. This is my sense of humor. If you like it, subscribe, and I'll make more videos on things like this and other stuff. Yeah, so if you are watching this because you know someone with this and you are curious and stuff, just know that we're not all intense. Like we can be. We're powerful beings. We're not scared. But we also are not, like, inside we are, well, inside it depends on your chart part of it. But I feel like inside what we really want as a generation for this is for people to understand the cycle and the duality and to transcend it. Because there's so much joy and greatness and actual light and love once those things are transcended. And I think we can help. I think this generation has been through a lot, but that's how shamans are made. Shamans are not initiated or educated or paid, or they're grown. So try to live organically, like Johann Sebastian Bach, who composed so much great organic music, because he based all of that on organic things like love, fruits, potatoes, his children, music. I'm a pianist, so I'll be talking about Johann Sebastian Bach a lot. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, subscribe, or if you want to book a reading, check to see my website. And cheers. And try to know that all this COVID stuff and all this stuff, it's like a movie for God or the spirit, you know? Like you're like, oh, it's shit. Oh. But when you go back there and watch, you'll be like, yeah, this is a banging movie. So much violence and pain and heartbreak and love and joy and up and down. It's a great movie. So, anyway, bye.